So welcome. Tonight we're going to do a short info session on the Rice Elite Tech Camps. I'll be the host of tonight's discussion. My name is Dr. Jan Sikorsky. I am the head of innovation at World Strides. I've largely focused in the K-12 space. I've been working in the experiential education business now for more than 18 years, but it wasn't what I studied. I focused on, or rather studied to be a forensic biologist before that was cool. So I was kind of in the CSI movement before it was kind of in vogue. We'll talk a little bit about why I've stuck to it and why I think this is an opportunity that is difficult to pass up as we go. But I've been working here in various roles at a World Strides or World Strides company for again since 2005. On the call we have James. James, if you don't mind introducing yourself for a quick second, then we can move forward.
Hi, everyone. My name's James. I work in the admissions department at Advision. I have been here for a couple of years now. It's 4.5. I currently also work doing data analysis for the individual K-12 department as well. And I've actually kind of worked pretty closely in regards to getting a lot of our admissions initiatives for the Rice Elite Tech Camp up and running. So I'm excited to share some of the information that we have for you guys.
Thank you, James. And the third person that we had set up for the call tonight, Professor George Webb, who's the director of the Rice Elite Tech Camps. He messaged me about an hour ago and has a family emergency. Unfortunately, won't be able to attend. We can relay questions to George as we go. I've gotten to know Professor Webb over the course of the last year, and I think you'll appreciate not only what he's created at Rice and built with these courses, but also his attention to detail as it comes to delivery of this product. So as you see on the screen, we're going to talk about the Rice Elite Tech Camps, and I'll fast forward to the next slide in just a second. These programs are taking place in 3 cities this summer. We're going to have our flagship campus, obviously, at Rice University in Houston. We'll also have a session in June at Emory University in Atlanta. And then that team will moving on to Chicago at Loyola University there. So we're doing our best to expand our reach in comparison to past years. And if my computer will allow me to, we'll advance on to the next slide. There we go. So I've been with this project since the beginning. Some might ask the question, how does a group like World Strides and a group like Rice University, more specifically the Rice Center for Engineering Leadership, get together on a project like the Elite Tech Camps? So Dr. Seafred Higgs, who is the Associate Provost at Rice University, he's also the faculty director for the Center of Engineering Leadership, approached me in the spring of 2020. So just before COVID hit, with an interesting value proposition. He and his group had created this very unique set of programs that were relevant. They had very interesting ties to what I call 21st century skills, regardless of where your focus is in your academic study. And more importantly, they were looking for a way to broaden their scope beyond the individuals that they were serving currently. So they had a commuter program at Rice that happened before COVID. They had a virtual program that they were launching, as a matter of fact, during COVID. And where they saw our benefit of partnering with a group like World Strides is how can we expand that touch? The goal here is to broaden access to very relevant topic matter and very deep educational content. The current areas or the current content in the market, as Dr. Higgs told me during one of our first meetings, he wanted to make the engineering program that he wanted when he was when he was in his developmental years. He wanted that summer experience that lived up to his own expectations. So that immersive, that blend of content and application, that hands-on. And so he started down the road, once he got his platform, to create that. But what he simply didn't have was a partner that could, number one, see the vision, but also two, take care of the students at all hours of the day. And we'll talk about this through the course of the presentation on what the Center for Engineering Leadership does in our relationship and what WorldStrides does. But if you can think about it in a very simple terms, like what happens inside the classroom is 100% the Center for Engineering Leadership. So the content design, the training of the instructional team, the delivery of the content. What happens outside the classroom are, the care and feeding of the student, the safety, the security, the customer service, simply the logistics on campus of being able to move students around. That's all on our team to make sure, the WorldStrides team that is, to make sure that that all comes together. And as you can see on your screen, WorldStrides has traveled over, 9 million individuals over the course of the past 55 years. We're celebrating our 55 year of being in business. World leader in experiential student travel. Obviously Rice needs no introduction in terms of their standing in terms of academic pedigree, nor does the Center for Engineering Leadership. The one thing I will say is, as you can read the screen just as simply as I can read it to you, and I'd rather, respect your time, by voicing over the fact that, we're in the business here to create not just students, but rather the next generation of leaders that are going to be the innovators and be the change makers and be the solution-oriented individuals that are going to solve the next generation's problems. I'm getting long in the tooth. I like to say I have a few more gray hairs than I had last year, which is a good thing, because the alternative isn't necessarily where I want to go just yet. But my time is coming to an end, and I need to be able to transition, just like we do, to that next cohort of individuals that's going to take up the mantle. Who's going to be the one that inspires the next generation of innovators that really says, how is AI, as an example, going to be in a meaningful part of society? And that's where we are with this particular program. I think what you'll see as we go through the next few slides, and I'll be respectful of time, I can go down a lot of rabbit holes. I got a lot of things to say. But what I will make sure to mention is the relevance of the content that are created in each of the 9 courses that are options on this platform. It's not just about learning a skill. It's not just learning about a piece of content. It's about being able to apply it. And I think you'll see in a few slides when we look at the 9 courses. I'm sure most of you on this call have actually taken a look at the course options already. But we'll go over them real quick, and you can see how they blend, let's say 50% theory and 50% application, because that's really important. The last thing I'll say on this slide is, and it's very important in how we came together, both the Center for Engineering Leadership and WorldStrides. When we were first approached, the thing that was most interesting to me, I'm a very passionate guy about, call it post-secondary career readiness. I won't say college and career readiness anymore, because I don't believe that's necessarily the right track for all students. When you say post-secondary career readiness, it's how do I get that student ready for the next step? How do I get that student ready to understand the course of study that they're on is the right one for them? I said at the beginning of this call, I was dead set on being a forensic pathologist. I have more, years in college than I care to admit. And now I'm in experiential education because I found my passion. I found what I'm best at. I found what drives me. And I've spent 18 years, really making a name in a number of areas of this business doing that. And so what inspires me about this program is it was built that way from the beginning. It's about creating engineering leaders. It's about creating innovators. It's not just about, learning Python or learning C++. Students will get that. It's about how to apply it. It's about how to apply it and then how to translate that for individuals that may not necessarily understand it. And you may say, how is that possible in a program for high school students? Well, enroll your student and find out. So when we look at our student body and we say, what makes this different than most of the other programs? Well, we'll talk about some differentiating factors here in just a second. One of the things that's always been most impressive to me, and this was early on, I'm talking about, 2006 in this business. When I look around the room, no one looks like me. They look completely different. And I say that in a good way. We have diversity in gender, we have diversity in identity, we have diversity in beliefs. And when they come into this program, they're finding an individual that is seeking the same type of, call it, mental exploration. They may not know a student in their town that is that curious about, AI and deep learning or C++ for human spaceflight. But what they get are a group of individuals in this program that they live with for a week, they study with for a week. Similar for those of us that, that went to an undergraduate institution, similar to that freshman year in undergraduate, where you meet those individuals that are absolutely at the same level you are in both in your mental capacity, but also in your desire to learn. They find that at this program and they connect deeply. Some of the feedback from students, in addition to the level of academic content, which is super high in these programs, they find individuals that are like-minded that they don't have in their home communities. So when I say, our students and finding that, that cohort, it's really important. Last summer, we did this program with, this partnership took place last summer in 2022 for the first time. We had individuals from 31 of the US states and territories. We had individuals from 7 international countries join us at Rice. I was very proud of that, because of the fact that we brought, it was almost like global awareness and technology and innovation kind of pulled into one model. And, don't discount what happens outside the classroom, as one of the key benefits to this model. When you think about being on campus, whether you're a commuter student, whether you're a virtual student in this model, or whether you're a residential student, you're really getting a taste for post-secondary college student life. What's it like to study in a hybrid environment? What's it like to be with a group of individuals that's working on a similar set of challenges? There's a lot to be said for that. I used to say, when I first started in this business, because I live on campus when I go around to our programs in the summer, I call me crazy, but I love the fact that I go into a dining hall and I don't have to do my own dishes. I don't have to cook. Here cooking's a passion of mine, so I can say it tongue in cheek. But the fact that all of the creature comforts are taken care of for these students, and all they have to worry about is going into the classroom space and soaking up the content that's been created for them by the head instructors and the live instructors. That's unique. And the ability to have the World Strides team that is essentially taking care of everything else. Student has an issue at all hours of the night, they have someone they can go to. They're supervised, so this isn't necessarily like college environment. This is call it a controlled supervision. So for me as a parent, albeit somebody that's a little bit younger, an 8-year-old, although she acts like she's 18. I have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, and both of them, I really want something like this for them, because I don't want them to walk on campus. If college is in their future, I don't want them to walk on campus as a freshman for the first time. I want them to have experienced that. I want them to have experienced having a roommate, that they don't know before they actually do it, if they go in blind as a freshman, because they'll have had that experience and they'll be the person that's walking with a little bit more confident in their step. And I think that student life piece is very undersold in all of these call it experiential residential programs. Like, that's something that is very important to me anyway. And I think it's an area that that we can, the students really can benefit from. Now, a lot of the folks that have jumped into the webinar are probably asking, the content. How does the content differ from everything else that's on the market? The ID Techs of the world that that have programs at whatever 40 campuses across the United States. I won't talk about the competition specifically, but I will talk about this particular model. Something that as somebody who holds a doctorate degree and a master's and a bachelor's, like I said, I spent way too much time in college. What I was most impressed by were the head instructors, the caliber of the head instructors that design each of the 9 courses. These are industry experts. They may be working in industry. They may be Rice lecturers. They may be Rice professors, depending on the course. They've all built the content because that's their area of specialty. They studied the area. They researched the area. They are working in the area. So it's all relevant. And, I've said that word probably 4 times now, because to me, relevance is the most important. And the reason why is relevance breeds engagement. I've found in my experiences in this business that if you are if your content is relevant, your students are engaged, full stop. If it isn't, they see through you and they understand it immediately that you don't know what you're talking about. So to me, that was passing the smell test when we first started discussing a partnership between the Center for Engineering Leadership and From World Strides. The courses are top notch. One of the other things that jumped out at me as a value add, most, if not all of the programs on the market give students an ability to choose one course. So if I want to learn the basics of C++, that's what I get for a week. Well, Rice designed an interesting model that you have one course in the morning and one course in the afternoon. If you're a in-person student, virtual students select either or. So if you're in the in-person student model, you get 2 courses. So you could combo the C++ for human spaceflight with the 3-dimensional modeling and 3-dimensional printing. So not only do you get the computer science aspect of, kind of learning a language and applying it, but then you get the dimensional design related to how do I put it into practice? And not all the course. Yeah, go. Give me 1 second,
Okay.
James, to finish this comment. And I'll come back to you. So not only do you get the combination, but you get the ability as a student to say, what's most important to me? Because I can choose one in the morning, choose one in the afternoon. I can explore 2 different, very deliberate concepts and come out at the back end with learnings in both. Go ahead, James. You got some questions?
Yeah, there were a couple questions about in regards to the courses that the students will be able to take. The day and residential options are fairly clear and very exciting in regards to what those offer. But in regards to being able to sign up for multiple courses or the hands-on elements of virtual courses, would you be able to touch on that a little bit as well?
I will. So it's gonna differ by course. Courses are unfortunately, because of the limitations of our system, course selection is post-enrollment. But there are all course options, with the exception of maybe week 1. The Python course in week 1 is oversold. Everything else is still available. So related to the hands-on options of the virtual courses, there are 2 courses, the Internet of Things course and the 3D design course, that actually have content that is shipped to the virtual student. So there are, once a student is enrolled, we'll get them enrolled in the Canvas. So I should step back and say, procedurally, each student, regardless of whether they're in person or virtual, gets their own account in Canvas, where all of the academic content is posted. So similar to a 2023 college course, where everything is hybrid, whether you're on campus or not. Students get their own Canvas account for their course materials, so it's all logged on Canvas, whether it's again in the classroom or virtual. And then the content that is necessary to complete the courses from a hands-on standpoint gets mailed to the virtual students. And to my knowledge, there are only the 2 courses that actually have the in-home kit delivery, but that gets taken care of post registration. So hopefully that helps, James.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you for touching on that.
So keeping going in the interest of time, and appreciate the inject there. So in addition to the choose your own adventure elements for the student, where they can actually, and I don't know parents on the call if you're like me, but I can try to convince my daughter to eat a lot of things, but if she comes to the same conclusion herself, it's going to be far easier. So if we look at a model like this and we're putting these 9 courses in front of our student, we say, I could force you to take this and go to this program because I know it's right for you. It's like eating your vegetables. Or you could take a look and figure out what you're really interested in. The second is a far better outcome. And one of the ways we connect to those students to make them not regret that outcome is at the far right of your screen. These courses are delivered by Rice University computer science, engineering, and technology students that have been trained by the head instructors. So the head instructors supervise course design and build the content. The live instructors are actually the ones that are in the classroom that translate it for the high school student. Last year, we had close to 4 weeks of academic training. We're on pace to do about the same today or this year. In fact, we're going to kick off here in 2 weeks. Our live instructor training starts at Rice. And those live instructors, they had me sold. Part of what I've always said makes these products is not somebody like me that's droning on like in this webinar. So apologies that I got a little off topic a little bit there. But the fact that these students that are living it, 4 years plus in front of our high school student, they're the ones that are translating it, and they're the ones that are connecting the dots, and they're the ones that are making it real for that student. And so seeing themselves in that seat is so super important for this audience. And so we have been deliberate about our selection process. It's been ongoing for about the last 9 weeks, 50 plus interviews in the live instructor realm. And we're narrowed down to about 20 that'll be trained up on the course materials and we'll be delivering in tandem with the head instructor that content for the high school student. I mentioned a little bit, we have multiple delivery options, and this is a little bit out of place in terms of my talking points here, but I'm big on meeting students where they're most comfortable. If you have a student that wants to sit at their kitchen table and wants to study the deep learning and AI for smart cities, go for it. If that's where you learn best, we have an option for you. If you're the student that wants to drive themselves or be dropped off on campus and picked up every day, we have a commuter option at each of our campuses for you. Or if you're the student that really wants to get the full experience of living on a college campus, that residential option exists. That's another differentiating factor because there aren't that many programs that kind of cater to the student in that way. I think most important on this slide is kind of that center element, though. The live student to live instructor ratios. We pride ourselves on about a 1:8, 1:10, maybe max, where we have a team teaching method that allows those live instructors to really connect with students that are in their classroom space. Versus if you have one teacher at the front of the classroom or one instructor at the front of the classroom, and you have 30 students that are there. What happens if one student doesn't quite get the concept? And we had this at a number of points last year. We'll look at some statistics at the end of the presentation. I won't spend a lot of time there, but it'll be germane to the point here. What happens if you have that one student that isn't quite getting it on day one? These are really fast-paced programs. I haven't mentioned, but I will mention again, each of the courses has about 15 curriculum hours. So if you figure 15 curriculum hours, that's 3 hours times 5 in the mornings and 3 hours times 5 in the afternoon. That's 30 curriculum hours of content that these students are getting thrown at them in a given week. And it's very advanced content. What happens if that student slips up on day one? Maybe they're not ready. Maybe they're not quite at the same pace as their peers. Our model, it doesn't leave that student behind. We have enough instructors in the classroom that pull that student to the side and make sure that they're given the one-on-one training, almost like a tutorial that allows them to work through the content on their own pace. And I'm proud of that. I stick to that, because this is about making sure that the student is finding their way in a way at a time where they can do something about it. It's equally as important to me to get a student to recognize that maybe this isn't the right career path for them as it is to turn them on to this content. Because again, use myself as an example. Not that I regret, because I didn't mention I'd met my wife in my forensic graduate program, and I have 2 great kids, and I've built an incredible life. I would have never had that if not for my passion for forensic science. But I'm not working in the business. So, you got to find a way to make sure that you're giving these students a recognition to make a decision on their own, to take ownership for their futures at a time where they can do something about it. And I think that leads us to our last point on this slide, the leadership lunch and learns. And you'll see one of the testimonials. I'm not going to read it to you, but you'll see it in a couple of slides from last year. One of the most impactful parts of the program in 2022 wasn't the content in the classroom. It was the insistence from the Center for Engineering Leadership that we're not creating engineers, we're creating engineering leaders. And so every single day of the program, there's a 2-hour lunch break. 1 hour is devoted to eating and care feeding with a student, letting them get on their social media, letting them take a break. It's very intensive. But there's another hour that's devoted to the 5, at least in 2022, the topics are on your screen. We did project management, design thinking, communication. We did a college admissions briefing from the Rice University admissions team. And I think what was probably the best, which was ironic because it was one of the last ones we added in, we had the live instructors do a surviving engineering school panel, and it just blew the students away. It literally allowed them to ask those questions that they all were wondering. And this was on Friday after being on campus for 5 or 6 days. So we're going to do that again for sure. But what was most interesting about all of this was the student feedback. The fact that we were presenting to them the affective factors that really make individuals successful in the 21st century business or whatever professional environment that don't necessarily get taught with inside the classroom. So to me, I was very proud of that, and I had nothing to do with it other than just to say yes, other than just to get on board. Well, I delivered the design thinking stuff, but it was more so the fact that they have, the team at the Center for Engineering Leadership had the vision to insist that leadership skills be incorporated in an engineering summer program. Like that's important to me, and I hope the individuals on the call recognize the benefits of that type of scrutiny on what's important in making students successful once they leave the program and once they get into their course of study. So a couple final things as we get toward the end of this presentation. I said at the beginning, there are 9 different tech track options. Not all of these are offered every week. The top 7, so 3D modeling through Internet of Things. These were tried and true. These programs were built virtually and delivered virtually and in person last summer. We added 2 new programs to the mix for 2023 that I'm really excited about. The robotic engineering, adding robotic muscles to your inventive ideas, and the self-driving technology, so the learning about the guidance, navigation, and controls. These are not offered virtually. There's only 2 programs out of the 9 that are not offered virtually. They're only offered in person, but they're offered at every program session that we're running this summer. So students have a lot of options. Like I said, you can You can take a data science course. You can take either the data analytics or the data detectives course. And you can bundle that with the, again, the robotic engineering course. So it literally is an infinite number of kind of choose your own adventures as you work your way through what's important to your student. What do they want to get out of this? And how do they see themselves going through their summer 2023? As I mentioned, don't just take my word for it. This is real data from 2022, our first year doing this together with the Center for Engineering Leadership. Because I'm presenting and I can do what I want, I'm going to go off script. I can read to you what's on the right just as easily as you can read it as well. The stat that I think I was most proud of as I was reviewing the data at the end of last summer was the 100% student impact score. What we asked the student is, did the program have an impact on you? And 100% of the students that responded to the survey said yes. And I don't think our marketing team either, they didn't think 100% was realistic, or they didn't think it was impactful, or they didn't think it was, I don't know, I guess maybe they didn't understand what impact meant. But to me, to have that level of, impact on the student, I was really proud. I was really proud to be a part of it. I was really proud to be aligned with such a high level of talent. And it just, again, made me feel good when we closed the books in August and started planning for this year. The other thing I will say is we had one student, out of all the students that responded, we had one student that did not score us in the top 2 box. So either a 5 or a 4 on student satisfaction. And the reason why that student chose to not say the program was satisfactory wasn't because they didn't have a good time. Because if you read their comments, they loved being on the campus. They loved the facilities. They loved the people. The course wasn't the right fit for them. And I go back to my comment. Isn't that part of the growing process? I'll take that as a win. And maybe I'm kind of one of those rose-colored glasses people. But if I took that student and I made them question whether or not going into this field was right for them, look, I'm not saying deter them, but at least make them question it, make them go back and take a look again, right? So I was proud of that. I stand by the numbers. Anybody has any, I'm not a tough guy to find, look me up on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at World Strides. Happy to continue the conversation around these. I'll also let the parents and students speak. Admittedly, these were hand chosen, but it fits with the presentation, right? Like when you talk about the immersive nature of the program content, when you have individuals that are calling out the leadership aspects that are in the program, when you have individuals that are saying like this was different than the other programs that I've attended. I mean, there's I put my students in a lot of these, and my kids are a little bit younger than this high school program, but they're in a lot of these types of developmental programs in the summer. I'm blessed that I can do that. But I want my kid to come home and have that ability to say, whoa, this one's different. And we got a lot of that feedback last year. I was really, again, humbled by, a lot of the items that our parents and students were saying, toward the end of 2022. Look forward to the same type of feedback this year. So some blocking and tackling. So I wasn't going to take up too much of your time, and I'm getting a little bit over, getting hooked by our team. Pretty easy to register. I built a QR code. You can take a snapshot of that. You can go to if you're still not convinced, go back to the Rice Center for Engineering Leadership website that's on your screen. Take a look, some additional time taking a look. Call our admissions team. The number's on the screen, 844-794-4427. Let one of our admissions team talk you through the process. Like I said, I'm a pretty easy guy to find. I should put my contact information up. It's just Jan dot Sikorsky, SIKORSKY @ World Strides. That's all one word, .com. Happy to answer any questions, happy to dialogue, happy to schedule a call if you want to talk to me about anything, including where the business is going, what are some of the benefits of experiential education. Went the wrong way. Tech glitch. So last slide of the night, again, just putting up some of the dates. We have all 6 weeks starting June 11th at Rice University. And again, those are mostly there's a couple of commuter only sessions. The 18th and the 16th of July are commuter only. The rest have residential commuter. All 6 of those session weeks have virtual complements. And then we have the two weeks in at Emory and Loyola respectively. Couple of blocking and tackling points. There is a $400 grant for June session. We're coming right up on our June deadlines and trying to make it easy for people to say yes. And then, as our admissions team tells me, if you call them in, they're in a pretty good mood these days, and they're willing to take a look at, if you want to get rid of your kid for a few weeks, they're willing to give you a multi-week discount. But that's more on James to be the bottleneck on that one. So that's something he can field.
I'll take care of you guys.
Happy to take any questions. I see there are a bunch in the chat, James. I know you didn't interrupt me, but fire away. What do we got?
Yeah, the first question, there were essentially 2 that asked a similar question in regards to scholars that have extensive previous knowledge in a subject matter that they're going to versus those that are coming in essentially as beginners. Will the course be able to keep up with the students' level and in regards to being able to implement their knowledge into the project that they're working on? Well, essentially that's pretty much it.
I mean, tough question to answer without the specifics, but I'll be honest and say I think yes. As what I witnessed last year on site, and as I mentioned, the student that is maybe a little bit call it green in the subject area, that is coming in with maybe not enough background. That's really the benefit of our staffing model with the ratios that we pride ourselves on, because we pull those students aside and give them the necessary information. We also have, what I didn't mention, in the evening for the residential students, there are study sessions, optional study sessions, where the staff are available. So, the ability for that student that may be sitting there on Tuesday saying, what did I get myself into? There is some added support. The student that is advanced, I feel a little bit embarrassed to say, but I was in the training room last year with these Rice live instructors, and one of them went up to the board and had a very elaborate mathematical equation. And again, like I said, I got a lot of years in college and a couple publications under my belt, so I wasn't feeling like I was too naive or ignorant for that matter. But they looked at it and they said, "Oh, I see why this cancels this cancels out." And he crosses through half of the equation and then walks on. And I'm like, "Well, why?" And of course, he did his thing, and I was just like, "Okay, I'm going to go sit in the dunce with the dunce cap on in the corner." These are incredibly smart instructors, and what they do is they push the students beyond their capabilities. And that's not to say they push them to the point where they make them feel like idiots like I did that day, but more so they have the ability to elevate the content in a way that I've not seen in the market, frankly. So, I won't say it's every student, because there's obviously that brilliant student that is going to come in and, be the genius that proves me wrong. But there are also ways to handle that. It's about the application. It's one thing to know a subject matter inside and out. It's a completely other thing to be able to apply it. And so I think we do both in this program, and I hope that helps shed some light on the diversity of the student body, as well as our ability to accept many types of students into the program.
Jen, another question that came up was in regards to the training that goes into the staff that are going to be working with the students. Someone just wanted to know essentially what the gist of the training is going to look like for them.
Sure. Well, so we have two different training models. Let's take the two different groups. We have the Center for Engineering Leadership and the live instructors. So let's call that the academic training. And then let's take the World Strides student supervision, care and feeding training. The former, the Center for Engineering Leadership is kicking off their training. Like I said, I think it's in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks from today. We will start that training, and it takes place for 4 weeks. Those students are in for 14, 16-hour days where they are learning the way the course is designed for probably 2.5 weeks. They're building their own, because I don't know if anybody on the call has had the privilege, and I say that in air quotes, of being given a PowerPoint and then being asked to present someone else's material. Like it's not the easiest thing in the world. You in order to put your DNA into it, you got to own it. And so what we do, these are subject expert students that are under the tutelage of the head instructor, but then they're really kind of putting their spin on it. And what they end up doing after that point is we put them through about let's say the final week is literally a pregame practice where they will be delivering the content to each other, to the faculty at Rice, as well as some others, and gets them ready for to come out of the gate week one with a high quality product. The World Strides team will be flying those individuals into Washington, D.C. for our student supervision training, as well as, so they're trained on all of our policies and procedures, how to run a program on site, but also how to take care of student needs, making sure that we understand if there's a medical issue on campus, if there God forbid there's a man-made or natural disaster that occurs. What are our procedures to keep people informed, keep the students safe, make sure that people are exited to a safe location. That's about a week-long training that exists in our Washington, D.C. location that'll take place in early June. And then those individuals are traveled to campus. So I hope that's a sufficient answer for the person that asked.
Perfect. There was another question about the differences between the commuter students and the residential students. And I know while they may be together for a good portion of it, there is some elements to the evening that really make the residential experience special as well. Are you able to touch on that just a little bit?
Absolutely. So it's a fantastic question. So when you think about differentiating the three models, and I'll go one further, I'll say, why discriminate against the student that wants to study in their living room on the virtual model? So you start out with the virtual model, James. You have the ability to select into one course. So if you're laser focused on that 3D modeling course and you're comfortable sitting on your laptop and that's all you want to do, maybe sitting at your kitchen table and having the materials delivered to you and kind of porting into the course from let's say 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Time is for you. So that's what they get. High value, but limited footprint. When you think about the commuter, that student is getting dropped off at let's say 8:30 every morning, getting picked up at 5:30 every evening. In the middle, they have the selection to take their morning course, their afternoon course. They get the lunch and learn during the leadership lunch and learn during the lunch hour. They get the lunch on campus, but they don't have the stressor of maybe residing away from home. Maybe they're not comfortable with that yet. So again, meeting the student where they are. When you get to the residential student and you say, okay, well, what do I get in the evenings? Well, you get the college experience. There are, call it a blend of activities, college readiness activities, college knowledge activities, but also just simply some of the socialization that exists, from say 7P to 9P, on a college campus on the quad. So it's kind of like that relaxation period that allows them to decompress and recognize what's important to them, reflect on their daily activities as well as their coursework. I mentioned the optional office hours that we employed last year that were very helpful to some of the students. So there are all of those aspects that would get lost if those students left campus. Not to mention the fact that they get a very high class dinner in the dining hall, which I say tongue in cheek. I'm the one that's first in line because like I said, I don't have to cook, I don't have to clean the dishes. I'm all about it. Sign me up.
Hey, Jen, as we are getting towards time, I would just like to remind everyone, I answered some questions with this in the Q&A, but for some of the questions around the web portal, around the arrival, departure information, things along those lines, just call the admissions office. We'll be able to get you all your information for logging in and access to the web forms, as well as any specific details about times or things along those lines. I'm going to try to get to a few more in the Q&A, but I think we're getting pretty close. Did you have anything that you wanted to finish it off with, Jan?
No, whatever you got. My time is yours. As I hope I've evidenced, I have a little bit of passion for this, and just happy that I have an audience.
Absolutely. Well, then in that case, would you mind going back to the slide that has the QR code and the phone number, just for those people to be able to get that real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Doing my best to keep food on the table.
Absolutely. Okay. Perfect.
Oh, James, one thing, while just because I don't like dead air, to your point on say the residential students, we had an activity that we'll likely do again this year called Blast Off, which for those engineers on the call, this is the make your own water powered rocket. But the Rice team put a little interesting spin on it that I had not seen before last year. Not only that, but you got to create a rocket that's capable of taking an egg as the payload. So it's twofold. How high can you get it, and can you travel that payload back to Earth safely? And I was blown away by these students that had 3 hours to go find their materials. This is, again, it's a leadership challenge, so it's not like we're giving them this. Is they have to go find their own materials. They have to build their own rocket. They prototype it themselves under the direction of our live instructors. And then we had a couple of the students that, by golly, they did it. You had 100 foot in the air, and this egg comes back back to Earth safe. So it's things like that put a smile on my face, because it's just that I don't know, that maybe it's that innovation that gets me. But I loved seeing it, and I love the engagement level of the students when they got to that point in the program.
Perfect. Well, thank you for finishing off on that note, Jan. And from both of us, I want to thank everyone that has been dropping questions into the chat. I know there's still a few left, but if you call the admissions office and ask for James, I'll be able to get some of those answers to you before we close in about an hour. But again, thank you all very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I echo that. And again, George sends his apologies for missing out on the call. I hope I did it justice. This is a fantastic program. Put my name behind it, put WorldStride's name behind it, and I don't think that really means as much even as having the Rice Center for Engineering Leadership's name behind it. So if you can take us up on the offer, and we'll see you this summer.